I'm Kim Pick and I'm Executive Creative Director of VML Y&R New Zealand, and I've been there about 2 years now. I've been a bit of a globetrotter in my career, so I began my career in Australia and was there for a few years, then went to Singapore, worked in the UK, in London for many years, back in New Zealand, and then I went to the States and worked in New York before coming back to New Zealand, where I'm living with the family now. I wanted to be a journalist with all my heart, and I was obsessed about justice. I really wanted to find the truth, and so I went to AUT and studied journalism. I became a publicist for the government in New South Wales and a speechwriter, and from there I met a copywriter, and I had no idea that job existed. For me, advertising was the white space between the content that I was interested in, the editorial, but when I discovered what a copywriter did, I thought, well, that's actually something I would love to do, and so I never looked back. I'd been working in America. I had a young child, so I'd only work a school hour day, and it was really the only way I was able to sustain my home life and also a career. But when my daughter became older, I felt I could actually go back into full-time work, and so it was at that age when I had an approach from Y&R at the time, and I said, yes, I'm ready to do this, and I wanted to take on the ECD role. Flexible working hours, I think, is really important, and one thing that's been interesting about the COVID and the lockdown situation is we probably said, no, we all need to be in the office, flexible working's too difficult, what about productivity? And I think it's been proven that you don't have to, that people can be productive and not work in a centralised hub or a shared office space. So that's great news for flexible working. I first became a creative director when I was 26, which was very unusual and in fact extremely rare at the time. I thought that things were constantly getting better since that time. In 2015 I was shocked to hear that actually the numbers of senior women in creative departments was decreasing. Part of the reason for that was this sort of presenteeism, the long hours, what was considered by many just to be too hard. It was just too hard to succeed in creative departments, which can be very competitive, and trying to manage that and home life as well and raise children. So they weren't coming in from the pipeline, they weren't being retained in the industry. When I heard this at a conference, I got a bit angry about it, and so began speaking out, I guess, as to why this was. And since then, I think it was a coincidence that I became active at this time, but I think generally people have taken more of an interest, and there's been a conscious effort from networks to improve the representation of women in creative departments. I'm a big believer in diversity of thought, and that the more opinions you get, the more diverse viewpoints, the better the ideas. In fact, it's proven that connectivity of different and diverse perspectives and opinions and information is exactly the essence of creativity. Industries should self-regulate, and for me that's being very aware of sentiment and looking at themselves critically to actually make that improvement without being forced to. I think the state of unrest that we're seeing in the world now is what happens when maybe there's not enough listening, there's not enough consultation or self-regulation to get things right first. So I do believe that change is necessary. I think this is an extra stimulus to make that change happen. And lots of it was underway already. I'm pleased to say that I do believe in the last 5 years particularly, there's been an acceleration of attention to issues of diversity and inclusion for the better, but with a long, long way to go. I've already noticed it's a topic I'm very interested in, but there's been a huge amount of interest and energy around this at the moment, and my hope is that it's not going to go away, and it's not one of those things where you have activism for a short amount of time and then it disappears, because unfortunately historically that is the truth, that every 10 years issues flare up, you have a lot of energy and promise around them, and then they go away and it goes back to being the way it was before. So there does appear to be a new energy that's happening at the moment, and I do believe that's going to make a difference. It's a systemic issue. There's many things that will come into changing the face and the construct of an agency. I think it's going to take a long time, but every bit of progress is important.